Who doesn't love a good old-fashioned mail day? Here at ERB Sports, we do them from time to time. Today, we have a special one, but before we bring out our special guest, we are going to talk about the Sacramento Kings, the team that the hobby hates to love. Yes, the team that everybody gives absolutely no credit to. They won last night on a back-to-back, second half of a back-to-back win of the season. They beat the Orlando Magic with Paolo Banchero in that game, 138 to 135, and it really got me thinking. I was listening to some Kings radio earlier today, and it just feels like, do we really need to just pump the brakes if you're a Kings fan and appreciate what we actually have? This is a team that didn't make the playoffs for 17 straight years. They were 48-34 last year. They surprised everybody. I picked them to go to the playoffs last year, and I said, this is a team that is definitely on the up and up, on the rise. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with in a couple of years. They're just a piece or two away. And then earlier this year, everybody was, I guess, in the Kings media, hoping that they would make a leap from good to great. Mike Brown said that's his goal. But honestly, that's a tough leap sometimes in the NBA. And you're going to have ebbs and flows throughout an entire season. When you play 82 games, you're going to lose against some teams that you shouldn't. You're going to win against some teams that you shouldn't. You're going to win games you should, and you're going to lose games you probably should. Well, 2 nights ago, they played the Charlotte Hornets, and they lost that game, kind of gave it away in the end. They probably should have won that game. They were winning the whole game. They were playing relatively poorly, and then they had a back-to-back, playing the Orlando Magic, who had just lost the night previously as well, over in Golden State, made the 1-hour drive from San Francisco up to Sacramento, had a game that the Kings should have whipped the absolute bejesus out of the Orlando Magic. They were up 17 at one point in the first half. I didn't stay up for the whole game. I watched the first half and thought, yeah, they got this one in the bag, but the Kings are going to king, and they let the Orlando Magic back in. Then, after double overtime, they finally put the Orlando Magic away and got back on their winning ways. But De'Aaron Fox had his absolute worst game of the season, shooting a very putrid 6 of 22 from the field, 0 of 5 from three-point range, 15 points, 6 assists. Really a relatively poor pedestrian performance from De'Aaron Fox, who has been absolutely on fire as of late. But that is our male guest of the day. Let's go ahead and bring him out. It is Mr. Foxy himself. Yeah, I don't know that I can call him Foxy because I'm not his coach. I'll leave that to Mike Brown and a couple of the Kings media members. But this is the pink fluorescent De'Aaron Fox PSA 10. I saw this one for sale on eBay. It was a buy it now. I don't know if I overpaid for this card, but I really wanted it. It was a pink fluorescent numbered 7 out of 10. You guys can see that right there. Numbered 7 out of 10. It's just a cool looking card. These cards are so tough to pull, let alone it's a player that you absolutely are a huge fan of. And as soon as I saw it listed, I had to have it. And I negotiated it down to $70. All in, $70 on this card that was listed for $150. The way I came to the price of this, before we get back into some Kings talk, was basically looking at other comps of similar players like a Tyrese Halliburton or a Jason Tatum or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, which had a similar copy of a pink fluorescent that sold in a PSA 10 or an SGC 10. And that led me to believe that a fair price on this card was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $65 to $75. So I offered right in the middle, hoping that I would either get that offer accepted or I would get a chance to renegotiate and bring it down to maybe $80. But the seller actually took the offer, $70 all in, and showed up in the mail today. It's just a stunning looking card. Honestly, could stare at this thing all day. Beautiful, beautiful card. People say Panini has been producing trash, but a pink and purple color match, that's not really a color match, but pink and purple go well together. And numbered 7 out of 10, I just had to have it. I know it's not jersey number or anything like that, but it's still a damn cool card. And happy to have this one in the PC. But back to some Kings talk. Okay, so the Kings media obviously right now it just seems like every single day they live by a loss, die by a loss. They live by a win, die by a loss. And I just think we ought to pump the brakes on what this team is. This team is an up-and-coming team still. They're a little immature. They're still probably a piece or two away. A couple of players this year appear to have regressed from where they were a year ago or even 2 years ago. Kevin Huerter is now out of the starting lineup. He lost that job to Chris Duarte, who played for, ironically enough, the Indiana Pacers here where I live. The Kings and the Pacers have been trade partners over the years multiple times, namely the Tyrese Halliburton and Domantas Sabonis trade. Who could forget that one? That one will go down in all-time history of the NBA as probably one of the most talked about trades of all time. By the time all is said and done, if Halliburton wins a title for Indiana or makes a deep playoff run and Sabonis makes a deep playoff run for the Kings, that's definitely going to be one that you look and say, both teams won on that one. Let's just move on and live to talk about another subject, because we can beat the Kings up all we want. We can beat the Pacers up all we want, but both teams actually probably won that trade. So Kevin Huerter regressed. Harrison Barnes' age is showing a little bit. He was re-signed in the offseason for a fair price, but overall he's very hit or miss. The night before against Charlotte, he had like 3 points and 1 of 2 shooting, which is just pathetic. And then last night, he was great. And he outscored De'Aaron Fox. So anything can happen in the NBA. But as a Kings fan, even though I don't live there, it seems to me, and I listen to a lot of Kings talk radio. I listen to the Lockdown Kings podcast with Matt George. And, Katie Christensen comes on time to time, and I think even she's getting a little frustrated with the way the Kings media perceives a loss as being the worst thing in the world, not even reflecting on the fact that 2 years ago, this team could not even win 30 games in a season, and winning 35 games in a season was absolutely unheard of. And now they've got 20 wins and only 13 losses, which is better than their record a year ago. But they've had some bad losses in there. And overall, I think Kings fans, while you can be supportive of your team, while you can definitely be enthusiastic when they win and be disappointed when they lose, keep in mind, this is still a very, very young team. De'Aaron Fox just turned 26. Domantas Sabonis just turned 27. Keegan Murray, I think, is 22 or 23. Yes, Harrison Barnes is a little bit older. Yes, Kevin Huerter, I think, is as well about 26, 27 years old. It's still a very young team. It is a maturing team. It's a team that had a new coach a year ago. Sometimes it takes a couple of years to get a system in place. They definitely put an emphasis on defense this year, which was good to see, but they've had some very bad clunker games when it comes to playing good defense, because they've gotten absolutely blown off the floor by like the Boston Celtics a couple weeks ago. They have yet to play the Milwaukee Bucks. They have yet to play the Indiana Pacers. They have yet to play the Philadelphia 76ers. They're going to go on a long, long road trip here. If they can just finish 500 on all of those road trips after 2 more games here at home, and then they play 12 of their next 14 games, I think, on the road. If they can just break even or go 8-6 over that stretch, I think that would be a very, very good result. And that's 6 losses that Kings fans are just going to have to I don't want to say get used to, but they're just going to have to cope with. I've resorted myself to say, as long as the team keeps responding from bad losses, I'm okay with it. These aren't losses that, at the end of the day, yes, they impact seeding, sure. Yes, they impact card values, sure. But overall, what we really care about is whether this team is healthy going into the first round of the playoffs, if they're going to make the playoffs and make a run, that they are peaking at the right time, not peaking at this point in the season in early January. It's not even the All-Star break yet. If we look at last year for any example, the Miami Heat came absolutely out of nowhere. They were a play-in team. Nobody gave them a chance. Yes, they had a little bit of luck relative to injuries and stuff like that from the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think the Sixers or the Knicks or somebody along the way as well. And the Celtics really kind of imploded down the stretch in that one, even though they did make it a series in the end. It was just too much to overcome a 3-0 deficit by the Celtics. But where do you think the Kings are going to finish this year? Well, if they don't make the play-in game, that would mean they're either dropping well below where they are now, which would be a collapse. I don't see that happening. Or a top 6 seed again, which I would still consider a win. So let it play out. Be frustrated when there's a loss. Let it play out. Be skeptical of getting too high and too low at the same time. Try to keep an even keel. Let it play out. It's going to be a couple more months here of some rocky road ahead relative to consistency out of this team. If it's mid-March and they're losing games like this, like they did against Charlotte, or not playing good defense like they did against the Celtics or the Portland Trail Blazers, then maybe hit the panic button on what's going to happen in the playoffs this year. But right now, just enjoy the ride, enjoy the wins, enjoy the bounce backs. Take the loss for what it is. Just forget about it and move on. Don't dwell on it. I don't know if players watch or listen to any podcast, but God forbid if they ever did, their heads would absolutely be just messed up by this point. I mean, one of the things I learned from talking to my son over the years about running, the more I talked to him, the worse he did. And the more he overanalyzed things, and he's analytical anyway, the worse he did. And so the last thing you want to do is have the Kevin Herter show on talk radio, or the Mike Brown show, or interview De'Aaron Fox after the game and just constantly dwell on the fact that a loss is a loss, or it's the worst loss, or is this disappointing, or where's this team going? Just take it for what it is. It's a ride. There's going to be ups and downs. In the long run, I think this team is headed towards something special. They're just a piece or two away. We'll see what they do at the trade deadline, and hopefully they keep Mr. Fox around, because these cards look so cool, and I hope he never plays for another team, because I absolutely think he can go down as one of the best Kings in the history of the NBA. So that's a little bit 12-minute ramble about the Kings and showing you guys a mail day. Thanks again for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more content. We got a grading preview to do shortly. We got some more rips to do. We got a lot of fun stuff ahead. Thanks again, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.